Hello class, today we're going to talk about David Hume again. Last time we talked about David Hume's idea of the association of ideas. Today we're going to talk about David Hume's comments on the idea of cause and effect. David Hume, as you remember from last time, says that cause and effect is something we cannot know. Cause and effect is also one of the ways in which the human mind will associate ideas. In other words, we associate ideas that we think resemble each other, we associate ideas that we think are next to each other, and we associate ideas that we connect causally. If I hit myself in the head, I will associate that obviously with the idea of pain. So how is it that he comes to doubt cause and effect? And why is this such an important thing? Let me begin. Cause and effect for David Hume is going to be based on the three things that we actually have an impression of. And again, for Hume, the only thing we know for sure are impressions. Impressions are things we know absolutely, intimately, clear and lively. So for example, if you feel pain, that pain is an impression. If you see the wall, you can have an impression of the color of the wall. The problem is that some of the ideas we have are not really impressions. They're simply ideas that we combine together, and these come from impressions which are simple. So let's see what are the impressions we really have of cause and effect. If I bang on the board, one of the things that I know for sure is that I see that every time I hit the board, over and over and over, each time there's a sound. And so I can say that those two things are constantly conjoined. And that's the first thing that we know about cause and effect. One, what he calls constant conjunction. They always happen together. Constant conjunction. The second thing we know about cause and effect that we have an actual impression of is that you'll never see the effect come after the cause. So you don't hear, for example, the bang and then see the hand hit it. You always have the hand hit it first and then the knock comes second. So there's a priority in time. The cause will always come before the effect. And that's number two, priority in time. And the order is not really relevant. The fact that we understand is one, constant conjunction, two, priority in time. And three, another one we've seen before, believe it or not, is this idea that you have to see the two things get very close to each other. So as I get my hand closer and closer and closer to the backboard, they have to touch. And again, that's the idea of contiguity. So we see contiguity as one way in which we associate ideas, but contiguity is also an impression we have of a cause coming after the cause preceding the effect. So the third actual impression we have of cause and effect is contiguity. Now, why does this mean I don't know cause and effect? Very simple. It could be that the reason that I hear the sound is not because my hand actually makes the sound. You have no impression of my hand hitting the wall and making a sound. What you have an impression of is first, they always come together, 1, 2, 3. Second, you always see that the cause comes before the effect. And third, they have to get very close to each other. But it could be that the sound is really that the wall just hates my hand and is saying, get that stupid hand away from me. In wall talk, that makes no sense. The likelihood of that is reasonably is very limited, but it's possible. And that means I have no impression, I have no actual direct experience of what Hume calls necessary connection. A necessary connection. We have no impression whatsoever of a necessary connection between cause and effect. Cause and effect. All I have an impression of is constant conjunction, priority in time, and contiguity. The two events have to be contiguous. But I don't know for sure. I don't have an impression of the hand making the sound. If I had that impression of a necessary connection, I could say I knew cause and effect were actually connected. But I don't. So how do I come to think that every time I hit the wall with my hand, I'll hear the sound? Why is it if I threw a ball at you, you would duck? Of course, you can't through the video, but you would duck if I threw a ball at you and saw it coming at. When it's possible, it would pass through you and not hurt you at all. The reason why you duck is because you've habitually associated cause and effect. You know very well that every time you get hit in the head with the ball, it would hurt. So he says the reason why we think cause and effect are connected is because of a habit. It's merely a habit of association. We habitually associate cause and effect. This is really damaging to the history of science. It means that all of the times that we thought we knew that one thing caused another, all we really know is one thing follows another. We have absolutely no impression of cause and effect. All we have is habit of association, and based on those habitual associations, we hope that one event causes another. But we have no impression of it. We do, however, have an impression of our emotions. So oddly enough, even though I can say I don't know whether or not the wall is really causing the color to come into my eyes, although I can say I don't really know if a hammer drives a nail into the board, I do know my feeling of faith, for example, is real. I just don't know if it corresponds to God. I do know that my feeling of pain is real. I just don't know if it corresponds to something that's hurting me. I do know that I love my wife with certainty, but I don't know whether my wife even exists. So this is a real problem. If there is no absolute certainty with respect to one event causing another, the best we can say is what we think is causally connected is really only connected by habit. There is no connection except for the connection that we create in our minds. And that ends the discussion on cause. Next, we're going to look at some of the incredibly interesting implications of this skepticism with regard to cause and effect.